Welcome back guys. In our previous videos I told you what apps and projects in Django are, and I also told you the difference between the two, what URL patterns are, and how an incoming request into the Django framework is interpreted and how a view is generated out of that. So in this video what I'm going to be explaining you is the Django's MVT architecture. You might be thinking that I'm teaching a lot of theory in this course, but hang on for a while. This is the only part which includes a lot of theory. In the future and upcoming videos, what I'm going to be doing is we'll create a lot of projects. We'll write a lot of code. We'll understand how Django code works. We'll see a lot of examples. So you don't have to worry about a lot of theory. But for now, I want you to understand the basics of Django. And it's just the apps, projects, and how MVT architecture works. That is the theory part in Django. Rest everything can be done by coding and by understanding the theory. And after you understand this little bit of theory, I'm telling you that it'll be very easy for you to develop Django applications. Before we proceed to the MVT architecture, I want you guys to access this playlist. If you haven't already done that, I want you to click here and access this playlist, bookmark it, and click here to save it so that you have my course at your disposal. Now I'll explain you about the Django's MVD pattern. Firstly, what is this MVD pattern and why do we bother about this? MVT is a design pattern that Django uses, and we are bothered about this because this is the pattern that Django uses and we have to understand it before we create a Django application. So talking about MVT, it is a design pattern. It's a software design pattern. So you know what MVT is. It is a way how files are structured, how things work in Django, and we'll see what MVT is in just a moment. Now it is a design pattern used by Django. As I already told you, M, V and T in Django stands for model, view and template. So you know what it stands for. Now you might be thinking, you told me about the URL patterns, now you are saying MVT. How both of these things are linked with each other? I told you that we have something called URL patterns in Django. URL patterns. And I told you that whenever you send a request to Django, for instance, if you say programmingwithharry.com/about, what happens is it checks for any pattern that matches /about. If it matches, it will show the corresponding view. If it doesn't matches, it will show you a standard 404 error or whatever you have configured in your Django application. Now, if we have something called about/me, then you'll see there are two things that Django needs to match. One is /about and the other thing is me. So what happens is the URL patterns check for /about and then it will check for /me, and if something matches, then it will say, okay, now what I'll do is I'll show the corresponding view with which your URL pattern is matching. So this is how URL patterns work. But overall, what Django has to do is it has to take in your request. So if I talk about Django has to take an incoming request. So I'll call it request. And once it takes your request, it has to return a response. What happens internally, if I talk from code standpoint, it is the architecture, it is the software design pattern that I'm talking about. The way Django produces response out of request highly depends upon the software design pattern that we are using, and in this case it is MVT. So whatever happens inside Django, so this is the area that we are going to be zooming in, and we'll understand how this works. So how a response is interpreted, how a request is interpreted into a response. So request looks something like pwh.com/about/me, and response looks something like HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So this is a response, and it might contain some images inside HTML, it might contain some style sheets or JavaScript scripts. So all these things are linked inside the HTML. So this is what response contains in general. You might have JSON response as well, you might have XML response as well, but in general it's going to be HTML. So what I'll do now is I'll explain you how Django works internally when we talk about Django from code standpoint. So what I'll do is I'll tell you how MVT pattern works. So let us say you are a user. So let us say this is Harry and I am a user. I have a browser inside my computer installed, and I don't care how you have built your application. What I know is I know that you have given me a URL which is programmingwithharry.com/blog slash Django 1. Let us say this is a URL you have given me and you have told me that this is my first Django text tutorial. Go and visit my website and read it. So you are not bothered about what my blog is built using, whether it's built using PHP, whether it's built using some static web pages, whether it's built using Django, Flask, whatever. All you know is that you have to enter this URL in your browser window, and once you press enter, you expect a response. Now, once you send it to the server, so this is a user, and then I'll tell you something. I'm creating a line here. So this is the user and this is the web server. User might be in India and server might be in, say, United States, or server might be in United Kingdom. It might be in India as well. It will be in a different location in most of the cases from the user. Okay, so what user will do is user will say, I want to request pwh.com/blog/Django1. Please give it to me. Now once user does this, what happens is Django will receive this blog/Django1 because pwh.com points to my Django website. So it will receive this blog/Django1. It will give it to URL dispatcher. It will say, hey URL dispatcher, can you do me a favor? Can you see what response are we supposed to send back to the user corresponding to this request? The request is blog/Django1. URL dispatcher will say, all right, Django, let me do this. Let me look into this, and don't worry, I'll do it for you. Now what happens is URL dispatcher will look into the urls.py and it will find a corresponding view which is matching the given request. So let us say I have a view called home, or say I have a view called Django1. This view might talk to a model which contains the data. So model is nothing but database. Let me write it first. Table. It is nothing but a database table counterpart in Django. So model is a Python class. It is nothing but a Python class which is linked to a database table. We'll see how this works. What we do is we just create a model, and when I say that we create a model, we create some piece of information about our tables, and we can give Django command that, hey, this is the model. Could you please create a table in our database? And Django will say, all right, I'll do that for you. Now this view at the same time might talk to a template directory from where it fetches all sort of templates. For example, if I have a blog and I have some heading, I might have a template like this. I'll say heading here. I'll say whatever I put in here should be replaced by heading, and content here, and rest of the website's images, navigation bar and everything will look similar for all the pages. So this is a template which you can use as a base, and you can inject some sort of information inside this template to produce unique but very similar pages. So my Django tutorial 1 will have some other heading and content, and my Django tutorial 2 might have some other heading and content. But if you look at both of these pages, you will see that they are very, very similar to each other. So this is how template works, and we'll see template in code. You don't have to worry much about that at this point. All you have to know at this point is that URL dispatchers will resolve to a view, and this view can dynamically talk to some model, which is nothing but a database table, and at the same time it can talk to some template. So what it will do is it will fetch some data from the database. Say it will fetch the heading and content. It will say, okay, the heading is Django introduction, and content might look something like Django is a popular Python framework, and something. And with these pieces of information, you can say template, please render this with the information that I'm providing you. So template will be provided by the heading and the content, and what template will do is it will finally return a template, a filled in template, a template that has been filled in with information to views.py, and this views.py will finally return the response back to the user. It will say, okay, I have generated the response. Here is your response. enjoy your response. So this is the response that this views.py will give back to the user. Why is this pattern called MVT architecture? This pattern is called MVD architecture because we have models, which is nothing but database tables. It is actually a Python class which corresponds to a database table. And we also have a template here. So model, M for model, V for view, T for template. It's called MVT architecture. We have another design pattern as well, which is called MVC pattern. MVC pattern, and it stands for model view controller. Honestly speaking, you don't even have to know about all these things in order to get started with Django, but I'm telling you all these things because this is how Django works, and this is all the theory that you need to learn to get started with Django. Once you get started with Django, you'll know what model is, you'll know what view is, you'll know what template is. I already told you about URL dispatcher. We'll go and do some exercises on that, and probably that will also be crystal clear to you. But still, I'm telling you all this because, you know, once you create a website and you don't know what is happening, that is the worst thing that can happen to a developer. I, as a teacher, want to tell you each and everything about Django, how it works. And finally, when you are an awesome Django developer and you look back at things, you'll think that, oh yes, this is the thing that I knew from starting. And when people start talking to you about MVC, MVT, you'll actually know what they're talking about. So even if you haven't understood this entirely, you don't have to worry. Proceed to the next videos. We'll do some demos, and after I do that demo, you will understand what this model, view and template is. But before I end this video, what I'll do is I'll go to my Visual Studio Code and I'll show you how all these things work in code. We'll not be building any websites there in this video, but what I'll do is I'll show you where is a view, where is a model, and where is a template, and how all these things work. I'll point to these files and I'll show you how these things work in action. So let's go to a Visual Studio Code, and there we'll see how these things work in action. Alright guys, so I'm inside my Visual Studio Code, and this is the Django website that we created. Now this website might not do much, but I use this as a template to show you how URL patterns work. So what I'll do is I'll fire python manage.py run server, and after I fire this, you'll see that my server is started. I'll control click, and once I control click, I'll see that my server has been started. So as you can see, when I enter this path, it tells me that a slash doesn't matches with anything. So I'm sorry, you gotta be adding this /admin or /Harry. So what I'll do is I'll say, okay, /Harry. And when I say /Harry, it tells me that it doesn't matches anything. When we went inside what Harry resolves to, we found some errors. So when I typed /Harry, it said, okay, we'll see what's there in home.urls, and we'll further match the patterns from here inside home.urls. So when I open my home.urls, I see boy there and I see paths there. But since you see neither of these things inside my URL patterns, my Django URL pattern will expect something called boy or something called paths in order to return a response, obviously. So if you give it something like this, it will say, I'm very sorry, but this thing doesn't matches with anything. Your URL patterns doesn't contain something like /Harry/ this gibberish. So it returns this error to me. Now it's telling me that page not found. Now if your debug mode is off, in your production environment, it will definitely not show you this thing. It will not show what kind of URLs you have. So you might be thinking, why is it revealing my information here? Why is it revealing information to my user? It is not revealing information to your user. It's actually telling this to you. So this is the page which is displayed only when you have debug is equal to true. If you have debug is equal to false, Django will display a standard 404 page. You can read this message. You are seeing this error because you have debug is equal to true in your Django settings. Change that to false and Django will display a standard 404 page. So this is what we talked about URL patterns in our previous videos. But what is MVT? This model right here that you see, you'll not see this models.py file inside the project directory. Why is that so? Because models is something that you will find inside the apps. Project contains the information about the project configuration in general. It doesn't do anything. what actually does something is your app. So your app will contain models.py and views.py and all that good stuff. So once a URL is resolved to a view, it will land to a function, some sort of function inside views.py. Let us say that function happens to be paths. Now inside paths, let us say this is a function which displays paths of all the blog posts inside the Django website. Let us say this is what it does. I'm just assuming this. I'm not creating a website which will do this. Let us say paths is a view which will show the list of all the paths inside a given blog. I'm just making this up. Now what I might want to do is I'll say fetch all the slugs from the slug table or blog post table, whatever the table name is. So what I'll do is I'll talk to a model. So if you remember my diagram that I showed you, views will talk to models and views will talk to template as well. So views will talk to both of these things. Views will talk to models and views will talk to template as well. So this is how it will talk to models. So we'll write some code here which will fetch the data from the models. Now once the data has been fetched, what I'll do is I'll create a context dictionary. My context dictionary will contain something called say heading, and I'll say this or Django tutorial 1, and it might also contain the content. So I'll say okay, the content looks something like this. I'll say content is this is the best Django tutorial on this. My keyboard will break. Entire planet. Okay, I'll save this, and since I've prepared this context, what I'll do is I'll use a render function and I'll send this context to my template. I'm not creating any website here. I'm just telling you how your views will talk to your templates. So once it talks to the template, your template will be creating a new page altogether, which will contain the body of the template, but actually the content that I'm passing through the context. So it will contain the heading as Django tutorial 1, and it will contain the content as this is the best Django tutorial on this entire planet. So this is how this works. So views are talking to models and the views are talking to templates as well in order to generate an HTTP response. So finally what happens is I'm rendering a template and sending it back to the user. That's how the entire MVT architecture works. I hope you have understood all what I've told you in this video, or what I've tried to tell you in this video, because we are going to be seeing a lot of examples. I'm not going to leave this here. We'll build a lot of websites. So a lot of projects are coming up. You don't have to worry about anything right now. Whatever you have understood, so far so good, because we'll see a lot of examples from here. We'll build a portfolio website. We'll do a lot of things. So if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I've seen my analytics actually. There are many people who are watching these videos without subscribing to the channel. I request all those viewers to please subscribe to this channel because I'm providing the entire course for free. Also, if you haven't already liked this video, make sure to like this video. Now I'll show you what we'll build in our upcoming videos. Before I show you what we'll build in our upcoming videos, I want you to bookmark this playlist and save it at the same time. Alright then, so this is the website that we'll build. I'm not showing you anything. I just want to tell you that a portfolio website is something that I'll build in the upcoming videos, and I hope you'll like that portfolio website. So what I'll do is I'll start with a very simple Django template and we'll take things forward from there. So we'll create a portfolio website from the next video onwards, and that website will actually host your developer portfolio. So if you are a developer, or if you want to be a web developer, whatever you want to become, you can use that website to display all your skills. You can showcase your talent there. You can put whatever you have built there, and that will be an entry point for the recruiter to go to and learn more about you. So it's a very useful website for all the developers out there, and I want you to have one as well. And obviously we'll create it using Django. So I am really very excited for my upcoming videos. If you are excited as well, make sure to drop a comment down below so that I may know that you are also interested in the videos that I'm going to create. For now, that's about it guys. Thank you so much guys for watching this video, and I will see you next time.